Okay. Okay, we're almost there, and there we go, I think. Yes, I just got an email from YouTube letting me know that I've gone live. That's important. All right, let's see. Everything is all good. Windows are good. Everything's okay. Things are okay. Hope you're doing well. Let's see here. Good day from South Ontario, and a happy Easter to those who celebrate it. Absolutely, John Ashley. John Ashley Smith, sorry. Let's see here. Working on folding laundry. That's still, important. Good afternoon from Ireland. Good morning from Indiana. Both start with I. Interesting. Afternoon from sunny London. Building some Concord for Gates of Antares and sticking my fingers together like a pro. That's the pro strat, is sticking your fingers together. At least I assume so, because I did a little bit of that myself yesterday. Let's see. Happy Easter from sunny Ludwigshafen, Germany. Putting edge highlights on my CSM that I can't see without my magnifying glasses. Well, I can understand that. Let's see here. Virginia, sleepy DC. Bright and happy Easter morning to everyone from Indianapolis. Hello from Florida, getting my Seraphon packed up to go play after. Nice. Hello from Italy, New York, Surrey, Portugal, Vienna. Good morning from Pittsburgh. Got my cursed city and hope everyone else was trying to get theirs. Oklahoma. Good morning from sunny Worcester. Can't stay long, so I got the folks round for an early birthday barbecue. Well, that sounds like fun, but wanted to stop by and say hello. Well, thank you, Average Painter. I appreciate it. Morning from Winneconne, working on some Blood Bowl. Nice. Stoke-on-Trent, how you doing? I have chocolate. I have Uncle Adam and a model to paint. Life is good. That's not bad. Yep. Hello from the Isle of Man. Just painting my 10mm samurai army while listening. Nice. Manitoba. Let's see here. Morning from Ottawa, working on some Warcry. Also good. Good to hear. It's too early to be awake in Alaska. Yeah, I bet so. That's probably problematic. Let's see here. Happy Egg Day from the UK. Currently doing panel lining on an Imperial Knight. That's going to be a lot of panels, but that sounds like it's going to be fun. Let's see here. Moderator Matt says, just woke up with drool in my beard in Chicago. Also good. Good to hear it. Hope you're doing well. Moderator Matt. Let's see here. Good morning, Uncle Adam from Mexico, preparing breakfast and then working on some orcs. Well, from Denmark, I'm busy painting individual scales on my Seraphon warriors. I am perhaps not that smart. Well, I mean, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, but generally, I'm a bigger fan of if I'm going to be doing something like that, probably dry brushing. If I'm going to be getting that kind of highlight on scales, but it depends. Sometimes you've worked yourself into a corner, and then you can't dry brush on the scales without getting it on all the other stuff that you've already painted, which is why I usually, again, paint inside out. If I was going to be painting Seraphon, I would paint them base coat whatever color, dry brush to get the scales to kind of pop, and then start painting all the other parts. And then any dry brush that got on the other parts gets covered up by the next step. So, but, sometimes that door has been closed and the cow has gotten out or whatever. Let's see here. Trying to get better at green stuff, adding metal hairdos to my Ironjaw Orcs warband. Nice. Hey, Emily, how you doing? Lurking at work today. That's not a problem. I won't tell. Good morning from Sydney, Australia. First time catching a live stream. Absolutely, Adam. Good to see you here. Working on Marvel Crisis Protocol terrain. Waiting on Cursed City next week. Nice. Namibia here. Which is difficult for me to say a little bit, sounds like this morning. But welcome to you in Namibia. I think I'm saying that right. Morning from High Bickington. Nice. Morning from Omaha. Going to be finishing my armigers today. Iron Man colors on one, Rescue Armor colors on the other. Nice. Mike Pags. Hey, how you doing, Mike Pags? Happy Easter from Milwaukee. Happy Easter to you as well. Let's see. Just drinking coffee, hoping to get a little work done on some AdMech and old metal Terminators and some Infinity models today. Sounds like you got a day planned, which is good. going to start working on my Blackstone Fortress baddies. Nice. Hopefully I can get a copy of Cursed City at my local GW store after the show today. I mean, it's not out. You'd have to be pre-ordering it or whatever, that kind of thing. It's not like it's not available. Like I've got a copy, but like, you know, internet folks and stuff like that, reviewers, YouTube channels, podcasts, some of those folks have gotten an early copy. So yeah, but it showed up Thursday. Did it show up on Thursday? It was either Wednesday or Thursday. It was a weird week this week. But yeah, it showed up, and then I had to make the video on Friday, and it went up on Saturday. So yeah, there wasn't a lot of that as far as time and stuff like that. Hey Adam, it's Australian midnight for me. Daylight savings happened. I'm assembling a Knight Morax model. It's going well. Nice. Any tips on cutting a nice circle from foam core? Ooh, that's a good question. Hey, Feisty Crab Man. So I got a Proxon cutter, which is a fancy kind of hot wire foam cutter, almost kind of like a jigsaw, but for foam. But it doesn't move the blade; it just gets hot, and it's a wire, you know. And anyway, I put it together this week, and I also got, due to suggestions I got from folks in chat, it's a company called Shifting Lands, and they make an MDF, basically fence that you can put on it so that it's easier for you to cut taller pieces of, let's say, pink XPS foam and stuff like that. But I don't know how you do a good circle. That's a good question. I don't know how you do something like that. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some sort of jig that you could get that makes it so that you can turn it or whatever. But yeah, cutting a perfect circle out of foam is going to be difficult. Do you know if we're getting any Warhammer news today? I don't. They don't let us know what the news is ahead of time or anything like that. Generally, as far as like when there's a new product and they're going to send it to a specific person, like I don't generally get sent certain things. Other, I don't know, YouTubers, podcasters. Like if you talk about this thing, you get sent stuff like that. If you talk about this thing, you get sent stuff like that. You know, whatever. They don't just send out everything to everybody or whatever. But my point is that you usually know several days in advance that are like, hey, we want to let you know we're sending this to you. But they don't say, hey, the news that's going up on the Warhammer community website 2 weeks from now is this or anything like that. So we don't have any access to that information or whatever, which is fine. That would be a lot of extra emails. But yeah, so I don't have any kind of stats about that. Your video is really informative and convinced me not to get Cursed City, mainly due to the lack of storage. It's a good-sized box. I have it over here. I mean, it's about the same size as Blackstone Fortress, but there's a lot of models in there. So if you're talking about the actual box storage, it's not a huge box, but it's not small. If you're talking about the model storage, once you get them all built and painted, yeah, there's 50 to 60 models in there, depending on whether you want to count the, frankly, very fancy objective markers as models. They are, I mean, it's not just like a little thing that you sit on it, but they're big. It's interesting. Morning from Iowa. Picked up an Elegoo yet? I have not as of yet. I keep checking Facebook. Or not Facebook. That would be weird. I keep checking Amazon, and they're still not available. But I did reach out to the company and say to them, hey, I would like to buy one. Can I get it directly from you so I don't have to fight against scalpers on Amazon? And they said, oh, sure, we can send you one for free. And I said, no, I don't want that. I just would like to buy it and not have to fight against scalpers. So if I could buy it direct from you and even pay extra shipping, because I'm sure that it's free shipping if you get it through Amazon, but if I buy it from them, I'm probably going to pay shipping, which is fine. I just want to actually get it and give scalpers the finger. And it took a couple of emails to get that point across, I think. I think there's a bit of a language barrier, them being in China and whatnot. But finally they're like, yeah, okay, we can when we get our next shipment from manufacturing, whatever, ready to go, we can tell you and then you can pay us and then we'll ship it to you. And I'm like, cool. It's supposed to be sometime this month, sometime in April, allegedly. So, but yeah. I use a drill and special bit for cutting circles. I guess it depends on the size of the circle, too. They've got a jig to cut discs, but it's not so much cutting a circle out of something, and I wouldn't be a perfect circle with melty wire in either. Yeah, well, that's the truth. I mean, even with the fence thing that you can set up so you can drag, it's still, you're not going to be perfect, probably, but yeah, that's a good point. Let's see here. Cursed City is getting released this next Saturday. I got a sneak peek at the actual thing, sales tactics, whatnot. Gotcha. I was lucky enough to pre-order Cursed City from my GW store yesterday. Now the wait begins. Yeah, absolutely. Best way to carve a perfect circle is throwing knives. Ooh, yeah, I can see that. Also, the Proxon is more like a scroll saw than a jigsaw. Sure. Yeah, that probably makes sense. I don't really know what a scroll saw is, so I'm going to take your word for it. Let's see here. Warcry information. I stayed strong and didn't pre-order Cursed City. I have a few kill teams to paint. Here's the thing that I've been reading more and more, and they've said it evidently on the Warhammer community website. This is not a limited box. They had a limited initial start run because COVID. You know what I mean? They produce this stuff. Let's just make sure on that. Ow. Yeah, so this is manufactured in the UK, not in China. So because of that, UK being in lockdown, they're running at reduced capacity, which, if you've been paying attention recently, that you've seen that in not just Cursed City, but in a lot of the releases they've had recently. There's been problems with that as far as getting stuff out on time or getting it out in the numbers that people would like. So the initial print run of this is limited, but they will make more and they will be available later. So if you don't get some now, if you don't get a box now and you want to, you will be able to get one later. Just like, Blackstone Fortress was available in stores for at least 2 years, maybe 3. So it's going to be the same deal from what they're even saying themselves on the Warhammer community website. So it's not a concern if if you had to have it this upcoming next weekend, well, I hope you got a copy, but otherwise it's it'll if you can't find it, like it's obviously it's the initial run is sold out on the website, on the GW website, but talk to your local game store. Like I said in the video on Saturday, talk to your local game store. They may have some that are available and you can prepay for them there or something like that. Getting into Warcry, wanting to build custom terrain but don't have any of the terrain kits. Is it important that it matches the dimensions of the official kits? Technically, no. Just like any other kind of tabletop gaming sort of thing, you get to do what you want. That's the thing that's fun. Now, if you want stuff, like if you use the cards that they give you for like making missions, and you want it to be like closer to that dimension, well, then you might want to try to find somebody either who already has a copy of the game and has built it, and then maybe make some measurements, take some pictures. It's up to you. But it's not a necessity. I was talking with Vince recently, Vince Venturella on YouTube, and we were talking about Warcry, and he said one of the first things he did when he got Warcry is he took the cards that say, okay, well, here's how you lay out your map with all of the different parts from it, and he just chucked those. I don't know if he actually threw them away, but maybe he did. And he will set things up the way he wants, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're playing in a tournament, probably, I have a suspicion that they will probably use the official terrain, but they might not. And then if you want to practice, you might want to try using that terrain, but it's totally up to you. If you just want to have a good time, and play with your friends, honestly, all you really need to start is that core book, which is, I think, $40, and then, just whatever kind of terrain you like, a board that is roughly 22 by 30-ish or so, Again, if you want to play on a 24 by 36, if you want to play on a 2x2, like, that's the thing. You can always tweak things. It's never going to be a situation where, like, if you change something will go wrong. It's your game. You can do with it what you want. So, yeah. Did you happen to get any of the cool freebies that people could also snap up? No, I don't. I'm not even familiar with what kind of freebies you're talking about. Oh, wait, there was a button. At my local shop, I stopped in, actually, and he showed me that there were some buttons that had, like, a skull on one of them, I think. And I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. But, yeah, I didn't. Hey, Vose Noctum. Store near me still has a couple of silver towers. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is it'll be, like, I know that there's still Blackstone Fortress, I think, at my local shop. Like, a copy left, maybe, but, yeah. I'm super hipster. I didn't pre-order the Cursed City. I managed to score Blackstone and the out-of-print Ascension expansion. Nice. And let's see here. I'm working on the Intercessors from Indominus as Blood Angels. Sadly, the red I bought from Vallejo is pretty terrible in terms of coverage, and I can't buy anything else fast in lockdown. Are you putting? Is there a primer? Do you have like a primer underneath that? Because the primer can very frequently help with paint adhesion if that's the issue. You're talking about coverage there. Yeah, that can also be the case. Yeah. Like for Blood Angels, I would generally what I would do if I was going to be painting Blood Angels is I would either prime them black or I would prime them even like a dark brown if you can, and then spray the red over the top of it, or paint red over the top of it, or dry brush red over the top of it. I would probably spray because I like to, especially with Space Marine type things, I want to get most of my base colors done without a brush, just painting, like if you're painting Ultramarines and you have to brush paint the blue onto the blue Ultramarines, that's, yeah, it can save yourself a whole bunch of time by just basically either priming them blue or painting them blue over a different color that's the slightly darker color. Some FLGSs still have Ascension, but it's scarce. Yeah, and I've got a friend who's looking for Escalation, and that's real hard to find. So, yeah. Hey, folks, from a sunny Irish East Coast, do you ever find the sheer number of minis and kits like Curse City and Blackstone to be overwhelming at times? I mean, yeah, like Blackstone too. Lord knows I've not painted all of them. Like that wasn't it wasn't exactly my plan. I have a tendency, and it's maybe not necessarily a great tendency, and I've made a video about it in the past, but I do have a tendency to sort of salt miniatures away. And it's to some degree, it's from a long time of going to conventions, seeing something cool, going, I'm going to buy that. That's really cool. And then going on and looking at other stuff, and then going, I should go back and pick that up. And then it's gone. Or you see something, that's maybe hard to find in the store, but you found it, and you're like, oh, I'm going to come back and buy that tomorrow, and then it's not there anymore, and you can't find it ever again. Or you end up buying it on eBay for more money. So, at least at this point in my life, I have a tendency to buy things when I see them, if I can. If I can afford it, I'll buy that now, and then I will put it on a shelf in the basement, and then when the time comes, I basically shop my basement. Like, I'm like, I want to build some guys for this game or this thing or whatever. And again, if it's a Games Workshop game and you're like, oh, I want to... But for Warcry bands lately, when I'm like, I want to buy a Warcry band, I just go dig through what I've got already from Games Workshop and be like, well, I've got these... Like when I did my Stormcast guys that I painted on Twitch. That was not me going out to the store to buy stuff. I just am like, I had a bunch of different things that I've picked up over time that I'm like, I know I'm going to use this at some point. I've got plans for maybe this. And sometimes those plans change, but the models don't. They're still there. And then all of a sudden a new game comes out and you're like, okay, well, these guys will work well for this or this, whatever. So storage is not obviously everybody's forte. Some people live in, small apartments, or you live with multiple roommates and you don't have, whatever. I've got a decent sized basement, so that helps. Probably can't see these, but I bought these from Eureka Miniatures, and they are they're metal miniatures actually, and they are basically little soldiers, like wearing like they're like modern day type soldiers, but they're wearing, it's called MOP gear, which I don't know what that stands for. I'm familiar with like NBC gear, which is nuclear, biological, chemical, but this is more of like kind of a gas. Instead of just a gas mask, it's actually like a whole hood that goes to the top of your head, and the gas mask pokes out and all that stuff. Anywho, I'm going to use those for Zona Alpha. And someone mentioned them. I saw them, I think, on Facebook. Someone was like painting them, and I was like, oh, those are cool. And they said they were from Eureka Miniatures. So I went and looked at the website, and I'm like, those are going to be great for Zona Alpha. And before I forget, that's also the other big problem sometimes it's not even like a supply situation. It's like I see something and I'm like, oh, that's cool, and then I'm nearly 50, my brain doesn't work like it used to, so I will buy something and then I'll put it on a shelf, and then before I go to buy something, like if I'm all of a sudden like I want to paint some guys in like special combat like chemical gear for Zona Alpha, and then I'll think real hard, and if I don't remember that I actually bought them, I will actually look through where I keep that stuff in the shelves downstairs, and I'll be like, oh yeah, here they are, and then you remember. So it's kind of important. Let's see here. Terrain from the out of production Warcry starter set is fantastic, and I can't seem to find it anywhere. Any tips on getting hands on it? For reasons I don't quite understand, they didn't sell it separately. I would love to talk to somebody sometime in the business department or whatever, or planning, or I don't even know. But I would love to know why they don't just sometimes crank out. They did it with Kill Team. They made that amazing, very good price. Frankly, probably almost, for lack of a better term, a little bit too cheap. Initial Kill Team box. It was $135 or something like that back in 2018, and it came with so much terrain, and it was really cool. But you could buy all that terrain later on, in separate kits. They've never done that with Warcry. They've made other kits that they've boxed up in Warcry, colors and stuff like that, and said, oh, here's this, whatever, and here's this, whatever. But the actual terrain that came in Warcry, for some reason, the bell tower and all that stuff, only available through the Warcry original starter box, and then to a lesser degree in Catacombs, Warcry Catacombs. But they've got the molds. They paid for the molds. Why not just be cool, we're going to crank out a bunch of these sets that people can use for Age of Sigmar or Dungeons and Dragons or what? We don't care. You buy it, we don't care. But they only made enough for those starter boxes, and they don't seem to be selling them separately. But they, like I said, they did sell them separately for Kill Team. So I don't know. It seems odd to me. Painting up some iron hands. Any recommendations for some oil washes for grime on skin weapons? You mean actual oil, actual oil washes? Because I've not actually used any oil washes before. I've seen them used on Twitch and things like that. I'm generally more of an acrylic wash person. But oil washes they can be pretty effective and do really good work, but they can be a bit messy as well, and they can take a long time to dry. So I don't know a ton about oil washes, unfortunately. Mission-oriented protective posture mop. It's basically NBC. Gotcha. They just maybe changed the name. But yeah, so hazmat/mop has started to become the default for Zona Alpha these days. Yeah, I mean, I've got some other kind of from Anvil Industry. I've got some resin, really cool kind of PMC, private military contractor type models that'll work really well for that I'm slowly working on as well. I've got my cultists that I've already done for Zona Alpha. They're done. And then these guys, I'm going to probably build a small force with them as well. So, yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Hi, Adam. What happened to that spider on your chest beard in the Cursed City video you released yesterday? I had no idea until I read the comments. I'm I get up Saturday morning. I got up Saturday morning, and I'm laying there in bed, and I'm looking at the comments in the video and seeing how the video was doing and all that. And then someone's yeah, right about the 12-minute mark, did you guys see that spider that landed on Adam and ran across his chest? I never had any idea. And I'm not a big spider fan. Not as bad as I used to be. But yeah, no, I didn't. It was small, but it still, yeah, I did not notice. Let's see. If you're getting lumpy green stuff, you need to mix it more thoroughly. And for smooth surfaces, use a metal tool wet and practice. Yeah, when you are sculpting with green stuff, you have to keep your tools wet, because if you don't, they will stick. The green stuff will stick to the metal, and then it'll be hard to sculpt with. So you constantly have to have a little cup of water and just dip your whatever metal tools you're using or anything like that. The only way to get it so it doesn't stick to your tools is if you use silicone tools, and they make these things called clay shapers. They're silicone clay shapers, and they come in different wedges and kind of shapes and stuff like that. And you can sculpt with those in silicone. Almost nothing sticks to silicone, so your green stuff won't. Do you know any ways I could convert the skeletons to look more like the new ones? I don't know what you mean there. I'm sorry. I was happy to grab my copy of Cursed City, hoping to use the game as you get ready to paint up some Soul Blight later this year. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are doing that too. Speaking of Vince W., he seems to be a big fan of paint additives. Where do you stand? I don't use too many paint additives, but Vince is at a much different level than I am in painting. I am trying to get models done to get on the tabletop so I can then do more models, and Vince paints at a very high level, layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of glazing and stuff like that. And it's Sam, the same thing. And so they've, Sam almost always has some sort of paint retarder fluid or flow improver or something, like a glob of it on his wet palette. at all times when he's painting. And I generally, I don't use that stuff too much. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's just that I'm usually not trying to do that many layers and thin things down to that degree and stuff like that. There's some benefit to it. Like I do use flow improver on my airbrush from time to time. Depends on the paint. And I use, but as far as actual additives and stuff like that, I don't generally use those types of things. But if you're going to be getting into display painting, then you want to pay attention to people like Sam and Vince. If you want to, if you're not necessarily into that and you're just interested in tabletop, then I'm hopefully going to be able to give you some tips to get some of that stuff done quick and efficiently, which is kind of the big deal. At least for me, for getting things done for tabletop, it's like, if I can get it done quick, that's the deal. Like those skeletons, the skeletons that came in the Cursed City box, I posted like 4 of them yesterday on, they're not painted, but they're built. I kind of, as I was starting to build them, I posted on my Instagram yesterday. But I've got 10 of them built now. I textured their bases. So sometime this afternoon, I am going to prime them. And then I'm going to start painting them tomorrow on Twitch. On Monday nights, I stream, that's not the right button. I stream on Twitch at 7 p.m. Central Time. So starting tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central Time, I'm going to start working on the Warcry skeletons, the first 10 of them. And I'm looking forward to doing that. I'm going to probably, I believe right now my plan is I'm probably going to prime them with Monument Hobbies Pro Acryl primer. They've got a primer called Black Brown or Brown Black. I can never remember which one it is. I think it's Brown Black. But I'm going to do it that way because it's a warmer, it's a real dark brown, if not basically just a real warm black. And then I'm going to zenithal highlight from above, but with a silver metallic. Normally, if I'm painting skeletons, I'm painting them tan. But these skeletons, there's more armor on them than there is bone as far as the actual models are concerned. So I think I'm going to go that way. So once they're primed and they're silver, over dark brown or almost black, then I'll go back and use a chocolate brown and then basically brush paint all of the bone parts, and then I'll do ivory on them and stuff like that. So yeah, if they were skeletons that had less clothing / armor on, then I would definitely prime them a bone color to start with and then do my normal process. I made a video about that years ago called Quick and Easy Skeleton Horde. And I would use that process. But because these skeletons don't have a lot of bone hanging out, they've got a lot of metal basically covering everything because they're wearing a lot of armor and clothing and stuff like that, I'm going to go with that color to start instead. So yeah, that's where that's going to be going. Let's see here. I think they do the terrain for Warcry separately, but over 2 boxes. Oh, I haven't even seen that. That's interesting. Hey Adam, I just tuned in, so I don't know if it's been said, but cobblestone castings are great for Zona Alpha. Cobblestone castings. That name sounds familiar, but I don't think I've seen their stuff. Interesting. You can get the Warcry terrain through the Mortal Realms magazine. I heard that they maybe finally opened that up here in the United States. I don't even really understand what that is. I mean, like the prices. I saw a thing recently where like, oh yeah, the first issue is like £2.99, but you got like 10 models in there, and I'm like, well, that's crazy. I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know a lot about the Mortal Realms magazine, but I think it's an interesting idea. Uncle Adam, what's your latest miniature board game that you've painted? That's tough to say. I mean, I've been painting all over the board. I don't usually. Yeah, well, so the most recent project I was working on, other than the skeletons for Cursed City that I built yesterday and textured all their bases. Previous to that, I was working on a Mutilith Vortex Beast, who is a chaos monster, and I'm going to be using him in Warcry eventually. And I've been working on him on Twitch. Previous to that, I worked on a Terrorgeist, which is a death kind of monster, dragon, undead zombie bat thing. And he's also a big boy, and I worked on him also on Twitch. Worked on some demons and stuff like that I've been painting recently that are resin printed. They're a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm kind of all over the board, generally the case. Anvil Industries is awesome. I have a whole bunch of the Desert Nomads. Yeah, Anvil Industries stuff I was super impressed with. Like the resin is really, really nice, and everything is really nice and modular and fits together quite well. Have you started assembling the skinny skeletons from the Cursed City? I have, yes. I built all 10 of them yesterday. They honestly went together real easy. They went together very easily, but I think that it really informs the way that they are posed. And that's a little bit of a bummer. What I mean by that is that the majority of those models are two pieces. So it is like the legs, the back, but you know, this is the back here, but you also have the torso in the front, and then usually there's a piece, and there's maybe like an arm and a shield, or there's the thing holding a sword, not a sword, a spear, and then there's the front part that snaps on that usually has the head attached to it, and then the chest plate and maybe some skirting or something like that or whatever, and you literally just sandwich them together, and there's a post in there, so you don't even have to glue them, but I was trimming the post down and then gluing them anyway because that's what I do. But the thing that's interesting is there's to be like 2 copies of the exact same back and legs, and then you would have 2 copies of the exact same front. And you're like, well, now you're going to make 2 guys who look the same. Well, the idea is that they're all kind of interchangeable. So you would have 2 of the same fronts, 2 of the same backs, but then you'd have another sculpt that was 2 of the same fronts, another 2 of the same backs, and then you would sort of swap them because they fit across. So you could take one of these fronts and stick it to one of these backs, and one of these fronts and stick it to one of these backs. So you had 4 models that kind of looked different, but sort of not. All the sculpts for the skeletons in Cursed City are all either like sort of leaning like this or leaning like this. And it's just sort of like nobody's like lunging or holding a sword or a shield out in front of them or anything like that. They're all kind of like, they're very, very cool looking, but when you look at them in a group, they're all just, it's like they're doing a dance routine a little bit. I don't know, it's a little bit of an annoyance the way that they're posed, because they're just like, it's like they're blowing in the wind. You know what I mean? I mean, it's to some degree like most zombies that you see, the models are all kind of leaning, hunched forward or something like that. And that's because that they're zombies, and that's the way but I don't know why skeletons are doing this sort of, I don't know, it's weird. As I was looking at them, I'm like, these poses are just a little odd, but they go together easily, and they've got a lot of detail. So I'm looking forward to painting them. The one thing I didn't do is I didn't do the watch captain skeleton. I'm going to probably do him later, along with maybe some of the other more hero-y type models and stuff like that. I just want to get these skeletons done first. And I figured 10. 10's a good number. I was like, if I build him as well, then that's like 11. And I like 10 will be a good number. I've got enough handles, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, like I said, going to start working tomorrow on them, because there's 10 of them, on Twitch. So that's the plan. And there's going to be, I'm going to prime him later this afternoon. Let's see here. Matt Sears says, I'm not a big spider fan. I mean, I don't like big spiders, certainly, no. Like that spider, if any of you are old enough to ever watched Gilligan's Island, there were episodes with this giant honking spider that was on the the island there. It was probably 3 feet wide. It was basically just people off screen pulling on it with strings or whatever, everything like that. But it was still, I don't want a spider that big. That sounds terrible. Speaking of local gaming stores, how do people in your local circuits, mainly GW Games, feel about proxy models? I have quite a few of my Slaves of Darkness army and haven't used it yet. Amongst friends, proxy models are never a problem, basically. Unless it's a situation where, like, your friend has, like, one force. Let's say they've got, like, one army. Let's say it's a warband for Warcry. And then they want to come and show up next week and then play, and they're like, okay, well, all these skeleton guys, these guys are actually Stormcast now. And then they come back next week and they're like, okay, well, now all these skeleton guys are this. You know what I mean? Like if they've just got the one, and it's not even like I'm angry at them because they're being cheap or something like that. It's nothing like that at all. It's just like, now I have to remember that this skeleton is a Judicator and this skeleton is a Liberator. It just becomes difficult as a person who's playing against them to understand what it is that they're doing. So if they did it over and over and over again, that's, you need to, if you're either play the same army repeatedly or maybe whatever. Let me get used to the idea of what this model is supposed to be, But if it's something they're like testing out, like I want to think about maybe getting into Night Haunts, but I don't have any yet, so I'm going to proxy these. I got no problem with that. Or, you know, maybe you found some ghost models that are 3D printable that you really like better than Night Haunts, or they're easier for you to paint, or whatever the deal is. As long as I know and you keep them always roughly the same, like this is a, you know, Grimcast Reaper and this is a whatever, that at least helps me play and remember what it is that you're running, you know. But as far as like, oh, I don't think it's fair that you're using models that you like better than these other models, since I'm not Games Workshop, you know, I don't care. You know, I can understand why a store would be like, hey, I don't want you to come in here and play in our official tournament with models that you printed at home. I get that. You know, we would at least like you to be supporting the infrastructure. But if it's just you and your friends playing in your garage, your basement, your hobby room, wherever, then I'm all for using whatever the heck models you like. And again, like I said, some of my favorite games lately are games that don't have a model line, and they are designed to be what's known as model or miniature agnostic, meaning use the kind of miniatures you like. Like I said, you know, Eureka Games doesn't make a game for these weird little, space-suited sort of, well, I mean, you know, again, it's a safety outfit. It's like hazmat type guys with machine guns. They don't make a game for it. They just make miniatures so you can use them in other games like Zona Alpha or any other game out there that requires that kind of thing. I like that model a lot better, to be perfectly honest with you. I really like the model of like game designers making games, miniature people making miniatures. Sometimes miniature people are making, you know, miniatures with this game in mind, but they're not specifically locked together. The whole ecosystem of, if you're playing this game, you have to use these models. I don't know. It kind of bothers me to some degree. Anyway, there's that. Gilligan versus Dracula. I don't think I've seen that one. It's been a long time since I've watched one of those. You know, Gilligan's Island, that is. Let's see. These are the first skeletons with actual armor and are getting used to the extra weight. Could be, yeah, sure. That armor's very heavy. It makes them droopy. Wargames Atlantic has a good skeleton kit that has a Harryhausen vibe, multi-part that you can pose in a lot of different ways. I know Wargames Atlantic. I didn't know they had skeletons. I bought some of the skeletons that North Star military figures made for Oathmark. So Oathmark is a kind of rank and flank style game made by Osprey, and it's written by the same guy who wrote Frostgrave and Stargrave and whatnot, Joe McCullough. And the models I thought were pretty cool, and I'm not going to use them for Oathmark because I don't play Oathmark, because I'm not a big rank and flank guy, but I'm like, those skeletons are very cool and they're plastics, and so I bought those. Wait, Gilligan's Island had monsters? Every once in a while there was an episode where, yeah, and I don't remember if there was a Dracula, but I do remember there was a big honking spider. That was definitely the case. Did you see Ash's playthrough video? I'm amazed how fast he painted all the Cursed City models and set up for a demo of the game. I didn't see the video, but I see that it had been posted, and I saw in the thumbnail that there was mostly all, at least in the thumbnail, it looked like they were all painted. He is a monster when it comes to painting. Like, he is very fast, and he's either... So like I said, he either, because he's in Canada, he might have got it a good deal sooner than I did. That's possible. Or he got it at the same time I did, and then just didn't sleep for a couple of days, and then got all that stuff painted. Because, yeah, he's seriously, like, if he got it the same day, I got it on Wednesday night. Wednesday, like, around dinner time. And then you could start talking about it at 5 a.m. my time, 10 a.m. GMT, on Saturday. So if he got it on Wednesday night as well, and then must have just painted all day Thursday, all day Friday, filmed Friday, got it up on Saturday, that's possible. I don't know, but or else he got it earlier or in advance of me or something like that. That's fine too. But yeah, you know, he's a quick painter, I think. So there's that. I proxy some Raptorix for salamanders in my Seraphon because the resin salamanders are hideous. No, I can understand that, yeah. Speaking of terrain, I'm working on a 2-foot by 2-foot balanced tomb while watching. What's the biggest piece of terrain you put your hand to? I painted the 4x6, the original Realm of Battle board that GW made. which was those 2 foot by 2 foot squares, and they were like, it's the one that were like there's like cracks in the ground and it's just all skulls down there, like you're on a planet made out of skulls, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I years and years and years ago, before I even started the channel, now that I come to think of it, yeah, I got that thing when we lived over on Court Street. The big board, the big plastic board. Yeah, we were lived on. It was back when we lived in the previous apartment before we bought the house, and I remember setting it all up once I got it and everything. And then Diesel, our big cat, went and sat on it because it's cats. But yeah, I basically for my birthday I just asked everybody to give me money, and then I took that and added money to it and bought this big Realm Battle board, and then didn't paint it until we moved into the house, like in 2010 or whatever, because then I finally had a decent place to paint it, and I painted it kind of desert colors and dry brushed the rocks that were coming up and all that kind of stuff. And so that's probably the biggest piece. That took a lot of cans of spray paint too, because again, it's 4x6. So what's that, 24 square feet? So yeah, it was a big piece of work, but it's very cool. It's a very cool piece of terrain. And the modularity is nice too, because then you can be like, I only want 24 by 48 because I'm going to play a slightly bigger game of Kill Team or Warcry or anything like that. With the desert like that, with that particular original Realm of Battle board, it's nice because you could use it for 40K or for Fantasy / Age of Sigmar. With the new Realm of Battle board that's basically just aimed at 40K because it's all industrial and stuff like that. Obviously, you probably wouldn't use that for your Warhammer Fantasy / Age of Sigmar needs. He said 3 late nights, 51 that the models painted. Wow, yeah, it sounds like it. So he must have got it. He got it on Tuesday. Got it. The upside of the Wargames Atlantic skeletons, you can pose them any way you like. The downside is you can pose them any way you like, and they're very small and fiddly. Yeah, I had some skeletons, not from Wargames Atlantic, but from a company called Wargames Factory, or Wargame Factory, or Foundry? Maybe Foundry. And they had a very Harryhausen feel to them. They went out of business. I wonder if Wargames Atlantic didn't buy their molds, or something like that. But yeah, they're like, it's here's the deal. The box of skeletons that I have from these Wargames Foundry or whatever is actually not good for building miniatures at all. What it's great for is when you want to have a rib cage and a couple of arm bones on the base of a bigger model or something like that. Then it's spectacular because they're not thick and chunky like older GW skeletons, kind of like I was talking about in Saturday's video. Like these are like to scale and they look a lot better. If you watched me painting the Vortex Beast thing on Twitch just recently, on the base of that there is a skull and a rib cage and an arm, I think, and that's from that box set. So I'll have to check. I should take a look at their website and see and compare, because it could be just the same models. Like I said, Wargames Foundry or whatever went out of business, and I wonder if Wargames Atlantic bought their stuff and is just repackaging it or whatever. But yeah, they do have a Harryhausen feel to them. For those of you who don't know, Harryhausen, I can't think of his first name now, but he was if you've ever watched like the Voyage of Sinbad and movies like that, where Sinbad's fighting against these like stop motion skeletons, and that's the guy who did that stop motion stuff. Warhammer, oops, all skulls, nice. It's a planet rich in the rare mineral known as cranium. Nice, Master Shake, nice. I painted that battle board as well. It had a ton of skulls on it. Yeah, my original plan was, when I was going to paint it, I was going to take some like liquid resin, like that water stuff, and I was going to pour it into those cracks where the skulls would be. And initially I thought, I'm going to just put an opaque resin in there so that you don't see that there's skulls. There's just going to be a crack and there's going to be fluid underneath it. And then I thought about, okay, well, what if I pour some stuff in there, but you still see the skulls, but now your model doesn't get tilty when you set it in there because it's a little bit of a flatter surface. And then I didn't do either of those things. So, yeah, I mean, I still technically could. I could still pour resin in there now. But, yeah. The new GW Skellies line up pretty well with their classic Graveguard and armored skeletons. Last models are maybe too different. I can see that. I got to play Gaslands Friday night with my brother-in-law. I got wiped out, but the highlight of the game was my helicopter crashing into his bus and blowing it up. Gaslands is a great game if you're into like kind of Mad Max, kind of just driving around smashing into each other and stuff like that. Gaslands is a very, very cool game. It's called Wargames Factory. Is Wargames Factory, not Foundry? Okay. If you remember, the Realm of Battle boards were hollow plastic, right? Yeah. They had like struts and stuff. Like it was sturdy. It was a nice sturdy board. But then the underside, like where the hills go up and stuff like that, if you flipped it over, there was like struts and plastic, supports and stuff underneath there. But it was basically hollow, yeah. What's it like rolling bones on a drum? I always wanted to afford one back in the day. That's the other thing too, is that it was no fun to roll dice on it because it was real loud. So when I would play with that big board, I have a couple of those, like, I think they're octagonal, like wood. I think this company called Kaplow makes them. You probably see them at your local game store, but they're like wooden octagonal dice trays with like a felt bottom. And I used those, and I would have one on my side, one on my opponent's side, and you could roll in those, and then they wouldn't make so much noise on the board. Hey, Useless Wizard, how you doing? They're the same minis. Wargames Atlantic has republished a lot of the Wargames Factory kits. Nice. Because I that's the thing, is when I found that box, I picked it up, but I think I had to get it on eBay because I think Wargames Foundry or Factory had already kind of gone out of business. So I'm glad that they got them because they're very, very cool skeletons. Again, frankly, not particularly good if you're trying to build them to use as miniatures because they'll be real spindly and you're going to be very delicate with them, moving them around, transporting all that kind of stuff. But if you want a box of just basically extra bone parts to make the bases on your models look really cool with a lot of littered skeletons, that's the box to go for. Seriously, it's really, really good. Wargames Factory miniatures are a nightmare to build. Tons of small, fragile parts. Each model takes 20 minutes to build. Yeah. I also have from that company, too, they used to make a box of, what were they called? Apocalypse survivors. There was one of men and one of women. And they were okay. They weren't bad models. They were fine. But one of the things that was super cool about them is they came with so many weapons. Like, there would be maybe 24 models in the box, but there would be like 150, 200 weapons in that box. AK-47s, bows and arrows, shotguns, like everything. So it's a kit basher's dream because not only do you have some people who are kind of like relatively normal looking, like apocalypse survivors, and I don't mean like Mad Max shoulder pads and a mohawk, but like someone who's just like literally, the apocalypse was last week and they haven't found any shoulder pads yet, that kind of thing. So yeah, like relatively normalish looking people, but then you can give them AK-47s and stuff, and yeah, it was a cool model, or a cool set. Cal says, yeah, they got the Wargames Foundry stuff. Nice. Ray Harryhausen. I don't think it's Harry Harryhausen. That'd be a terrible name. Ray Harryhausen was the father of stop motion. Zona Alpha has the treasure hunters trying to get stuff left over by aliens. Yeah, that's the one where it's kind of based off of a Russian novel called Roadside Picnic. So you are kind of groups of treasure hunters, for lack of a better word, otherwise known as stalkers very frequently, who are going into these exclusion zones, which is where the UFOs landed, and the governments have like walled them off because they don't want people going in there because it's dangerous. But there's also cool stuff in there, so people want to go in there, and then sometimes they come out with cool stuff that they can sell and make lots of money, and sometimes they go in there and they step into a magnetic field that turns them inside out that they couldn't see. So, there's that too. Lots of things like that. Just bought the Dark Uprising box for Necromunda. Holy God, this looks awesome. Never played before. That's a big, big, big box. I think the U.S. price for that box is $290, but that's because it is filled with terrain. There's also 2 gangs in there too, but it is filled with terrain. Yeah, that is a very cool box. Do you know of any ways I could convert the old skeletons to look more like the new ones from Cursed City? Not particularly. I don't know how, because the old skeletons were very thick. Because they kind of need to be so that they kind of stand up and are a little bit more robust to moving and putting them in, your little foam cases and taking them to the shop or taking them to your friend's house or putting them into a shoebox or whatever you do. These new ones are quite slender in comparison, so I don't know how you would make them kind of do that. There's not a good way to convert, I think, the old ones to look like these kind of new ones, especially because the new ones have got a lot of armor on them as well. So they're like armored, but all still skinny. It's interesting. Let's see here. Just want to say that I'm 33 years old and I'm 2 years back into 40K. Early on, a friend from work pointed me to your videos and I've enjoyed the heck out of them. But ciao. Well, thank you very much, Cinnamon Soda. or Skoda. Sorry. Good to hear it. I'm glad to hear you're enjoying it. And Master Shake says that Wargames Foundry is still in business. FYI, I had no idea. I thought they had gone out of business. Well, maybe they went out of business and then someone else bought it and started up the business again. And so I don't know. It's a good question. Yeah, I didn't know that. Did you see the Warcry campaign with the Cursed City bad guys in the community site? I saw the post about it. I have not downloaded it. But yeah, I know that there is a kind of a limited sort of Warcry thing using Cursed City stuff. I'm still hoping they're going to just straight up release stats for it like they did with Kill Team and Blackstone Fortress. Because that was the thing that was great about Blackstone Fortress, is that any one of those models pretty much, except for maybe like the monsters, like the spindle drones and stuff like that. I don't know if you can take the spindle drones in Kill Team normally, but all the Chaos guys are not standard Chaos. They're their own Kill Team faction called Servants of the Abyss for reasons. And then the other models, like some of the models are commanders, some of the models are regular ones. Some of the models are like, yeah, this can go into a regular Imperial Guard army, but it has to be the Zealot, or it has to be the heavy, whatever, that kind of thing. So there were, specific rules and things like that to certain models. So I'm hoping they do something like that for Warcry, but we'll see. I don't know. Spray insulation foam would be a great way to cut down on the noise rolling dice on those GW terrain tiles. I see. Spray yeah, maybe. I don't know if it wouldn't make it that much heavier. Spray insulation foam is pretty light, so yeah. Noted. First thing in the apocalypse, find shoulder pads. I would go to your local sporting goods, like used store. I mean, like as soon as the apocalypse happens, that's where I'm going to go so I can get my football shoulder pads. Because I mean, otherwise, how am I going to, how am I going to be part of the apocalypse if I don't have shoulder pads? I mean, the Mohawk will be a little difficult because I'm going to run out of up here in the middle part. It's going to be a little light, but I got to do what you got to do. Let's see. What is the playstyle of Warhammer Underworlds? Looked on YouTube, but didn't have much luck. Warhammer Underworlds is... I think Warhammer Underworlds is one of the... And I did a video about this some time ago, about how it's probably one of the best gateway games between board games and miniature games. It has deck building, so people who are into like even Magic and stuff like that can kind of feel a little comfortable about like, oh yeah, deck building, I understand that. And the miniatures go together really easily because they're all kind of push fit. There's not that many of them. I think the biggest warband for Warhammer Underworlds is maybe 9 figures. Most of them are 4, 5, 6 max. Yeah, it's a fun game. It's a fun kind of competitive game to some degree, but you can still just have fun with it playing normally. It's I still think to this day that it was their answer to Star Wars X-Wing. Star Wars X-Wing was late 7th edition 40K timeage, roughly. Star Wars X-Wing was starting to eat Games Workshop's lunch. There's a website called ICV2, and they pay attention to the business behind the gaming industry, not just miniatures, board games, Magic the Gathering, but also comic books and all kinds of nerd stuff like that, culture, And they do a tabletop game like chart of like sales for every quarter, I believe, and they have like one for RPGs and one for board games and one for like non-collectible miniatures. And 40K and Age of Sigmar / Fantasy been at the top of that chart for every quarter for years and years and years, until sometime just before 8th edition came out, when all of a sudden X-Wing was top in sales for that particular quarter over 40K. And 40K was in rough shape at the end of 7th. So X-Wing was getting incredibly popular, and I think that Games Workshop is like, we need a small, inexpensive game that can be played kind of competitively and to draw in the same type of crowd to some degree. And we can't pre-paint them like they do for the X-Wing stuff, but and I think that's where it came from. Honestly, it's so anyway. The long story short is it's a fun game if you like things that are a little bit more board gamey, a little bit more deck building, and that kind of stuff like that. It's a good idea. UR25 is so good in Kill Team. Sadly, AdMech otherwise is not. Yeah, he's a cool model anyway, and I love the story behind him too. But yeah, he's also pretty cool in Kill Team. Dual wield mohawks on either side of your head. I could maybe do that. A little bit of this. That'd be kind of cool. I got shoulder pads in my basement. Well, then you're ready for the apocalypse. You got to plan ahead. You can do the rarest of mohawks, the unicorn. Maybe I could. Maybe. The deck building part of Underworlds is what keeps me away from it. See, and that's the thing. I'm not a big fan of the deck building. When I was playing against friends and things like that, they would be like, "Are you using the stock deck for that?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Why don't you deck build and do the?" I'm like, "Because I don't want to." I mean, I was fine using, like, I had friends who were tweaking their deck for their games and all that kind of stuff, and like, if I swap out this card and put in that card, and I just wasn't interested in that. And so you can play it either way. Now, will you be as competitive if you don't deck build? Probably not. But if you're just playing to have fun, and it doesn't matter. Because I'm not a big fan of deck building, and this just happens to be within arm's reach, that's one of the reasons why I like Keyforge, is because it's a deck game, kind of like Magic the Gathering or whatever, except there's no deck building. Each of the decks that you buy, and this one's been unopened, but each of the decks that you buy, they have a name. So this deck is called Master Macroplex Fignar, is the name of the character that's attached to this deck, and the back of every card in this 36-card deck has got that artwork on it. And I can't take a card out of this deck and trade it with my friend, because then the backs won't match. So it's like playing Magic the Gathering, except you buy a deck and you can't swap cards because the decks are pre-printed for this. They're procedurally named and all. It's a whole thing. Anyway, Keyforge is cool if you hate deck building, and that's one of the reasons why it's the only card game I've played in years. But yeah, so if you don't like the card building, the deck building stuff in Warhammer Underworlds, you can still play with the the starter decks, and it works just fine. But yeah, you don't have to, though. I'm thinking we'll get Soulblight released before Warcry rules for the Cursed City models. I'm feeling that we will see some changes to the Cursed City War Scrolls once. Yeah, it could be. X-Wing was popular, and then they released second edition, and then no one plays it. Well, I mean, people still play it near where I live. It's still pretty popular here. But I got to be honest, I stopped. I didn't upgrade to 2.0. A friend of mine and I, we still play the original 1.0 rules. But yeah, I didn't upgrade to the new rules either. Deck building appeals to more people that would play stuff like Magic the Gathering. Yeah, I mean, there were plenty of people who were playing Magic the Gathering who then, when X-Wing came out, they started playing X-Wing as well. Especially since they didn't have to paint anything. You know what I mean? Like, it was a super brilliant move. And even Warhammer, there were plenty of people who were Magic players I would see at the shop weekly who started playing Warhammer Underworlds, because again, it was a deck building game, and again, the models, they were at least color, they were in a color, they just weren't gray plastic, they were blue or red or green depending on the army. Oh, they're orcs, they're at least green plastic, great. I push fit them together, it wasn't that hard, and I can play and whatever and stuff. And so yeah, I would definitely see people that I would generally only see at the store playing Magic. I would see them playing X-Wing initially. I also saw a bunch of them playing Warhammer Underworlds. And the thing that was interesting is that some of them who cared enough would start asking around about local commission painters to get them to paint their miniatures, because they didn't know how to paint them. So they're like, well, if I can get you to paint them, though. So I had friends who were, like starting out in commission painting. And when you start out in commission painting, almost every time what happens is someone comes up to you and is like, hey, you do commission painting? Cool. Can you paint my 2,500 points of these models? And then you're like, ugh, and you immediately hate it. But when someone comes up to you and is like, look, I'll pay you $100 to paint 4 models or 5 models or something like that, or you work out whatever the deal is, but it's a small war band because it's Warhammer Underworlds or any other game that has small war bands, that's a lot more fun as a commission painter. So there you go. I don't think X-Wing ever caught on in the DC area. I've seen more people playing old FASTA stuff than X-Wing. Wow, that's cool. A lot of people are playing X-Wing 2.0. It's growing fast here in China. Yo, I could see that too, yeah. Like I said, it's still real popular around where I live. I mean, it's not maybe as popular as it was in the heyday, but it's still, there's plenty of people who, even now, during COVID, like, when my local shop finally started opening up again to start having some limited in-game or in-store gaming, you still got to wear a mask and all that stuff and everything like that. Like, the first tournament they ran was X-Wing. So, yeah. Let's see here. Age of Sigmar Skirmish is great. The only thing it lacks really is injury tables and such a la Mordheim, but the small scale of the forces really make the dice roll critical. Is that still a book that you got to buy, Age of Sigmar Skirmish? So there was an Age of Sigmar Skirmish that was like literally almost like a pamphlet that was still like $10 for some reason. Or is there something else that's been new since then? I've been really enjoying Warcry. For me, that's like basically kind of Age of Sigmar Skirmish, but I know there was an actual Age of Sigmar Skirmish that was slightly different. Having to buy all the warbands was bad enough in Warhammer Underworlds, but when they brought in rotations, so if you only bought a few warbands, you couldn't build a decent library over the editions. See, that's why I don't like deck building, because again, the same thing with X-Wing. With X-Wing, you'd buy a ship sometimes because it had a card in there you needed for your deck, but you didn't want the ship. Well, I thought that was kind of stupid, so not super into that. Hey, Goobertown, how you doing? Wargaming's Foundry is still trading for interesting vampire lords with an old world vibe. They have look at their Revenant Elves range sold by Warmonger Miniatures, a Foundry sister company. Huh, that's pretty cool. Upgrading X-Wing costs less than the new 40k rulebook and codex. It wasn't so much that it was a cost issue. It was that I played so infrequently, I just didn't want to have to like learn new stuff and go through all that. So yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've become a bit tired of the every 2 to 3 years I got to buy a new codex kind of thing too, which is another reason why I haven't really been playing any army games lately. I've been focusing predominantly on skirmish. But yeah, the X-Wing stuff, I was again, the reason I didn't upgrade was just because me and my one friend who played, we're fine with the original first edition. So yeah. Is anyone else excited for Stargrave coming out at the end of this month? I am. Did I put the book in the basement? Do I have it here? I'm trying not to knock everything over. I think it's in the basement. But yes, I have the book, and I've been really excited by it. I'm definitely... Once I get... secret project I'm working on and some other stuff done, I'm going to be painting pretty heavily on terrain that I can use for both Star Wars Legion, not Star Wars X-Wing, and also be able to use it for Stargrave as well. And it's basically deserty, Tatooine type buildings, 3D printed stuff that I got. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that. But yeah, it should be coming out, I think, was it the 22nd, 23rd? Somewhere in the 20s is when Stargrave should be coming out. Stargrave is the sci-fi version, basically, of Frostgrave. So if you enjoyed Frostgrave, or if you thought about Frostgrave but you weren't into fantasy, Stargrave is same writer, Joe McCullough again, same company, Osprey, and it's a really nice-looking book. My girlfriend bought me the second starter to X-Wing, the sequels version. I like that game. I hate the prices of the ships to build up to play. I mean, it's, again, like a lot of people said in the chat here, it is cheaper than GW, and also they're already painted, so that's also kind of a benefit there too. Anyone else jumped to one-page rules from Age of Sigmar out of 40k? A lot less faff and simple rules for the nerds who like the words but not the system. Yeah, I want to start playing... One-page rules has a system called Firefight, I believe, and that's kind of basically sort of their version of Kill Team. And I want to give that a good go over. I've gone through and I've downloaded a bunch of the stuff and I've read a bunch of the stuff, but I want to actually play specifically Firefight a couple of times, hopefully sometime this summer. And I'm just going to use my normal GW stuff that I've already got painted, because I've got 7 or 8 warbands, I guess. Kill teams, I guess, painted for Kill Team right now. So I want to be able to do that and really get a good handle on the rules. But I really enjoy what they're doing, where they're like writing all these different rule sets. You can support them through Patreon. They're also now cranking out tons and tons of cool STLs. So if you're into resin printing or anything like that, literally from them you can go from completely soup to nuts. You can get the rules, you can get the 3D printed STLs, you can go through all that stuff and completely make your own kind of gaming experience with their stuff. I don't know if they do terrain yet, but they might. They're also, even if you don't have a 3D printer, but you still want to play and you don't even have miniatures, they do paper miniatures. You can buy from them like PDFs and stuff and then cut them out, like print them on cardstock or whatever and cut them out and then have like little miniature whatevers. And they've been doing a lot of good work with that. It's really smart. Yes, it's still available and it's pamphlet thin. Most photos and minis are but rules for a linked mini campaign, pickup games, competitive games. I think I have it somewhere. It's the Age of Sigmar skirmish thing, but it's been a while. It's been out for a long, long time. What do you think of Warhammer and Magic: The Gathering teaming up? I don't know anything about it. I mean, I know it's happening, but I don't really know anything about the world of Magic barely. So I don't really know if this is bad for Magic, good for Magic. But I do know that it's occurring. Yeah. Do you know a good SLA printer to start out with and really good quality filament? Well, an SLA printer wouldn't use filament, would it? Is that an FML printer? I forget what the... Filament goes through the type of 3D printer where it squirts out and it draws and it's whereas the resin printers, they use resin. I don't know that it's a different... I don't know if I got the right answer for that. Right now, like SLA printer, resin type printer, I want to get an Elgu, but Anycubic is also a good brand I know a lot of people talking about that. So yeah, but yeah, as far as filament, Ender I hear, and I don't remember who makes that, but Ender's good, and I think Elgu makes a good filament printer now too. Are you still playing a lot of Legion? I'm not playing a lot of anything, frankly, because COVID. But I do have my 800 points of Empire painted, and eventually I'm going to either add to that list or do Rebels. It depends on... Frankly, it depends on other people. Like, if I've got a bunch of people to play against, then I'm going to just stick with Empire at least for a while. But if I don't, and I have to try to convert people to play, then I'm going to have to do Rebels so that I have two forces, so that I can say, hey, pick one, and I'll play the other one. I've tried to play a few games over the Tabletop Simulator over lockdown, but the TTS experience still kind of sucks. Yeah, I don't like TTS. I really don't like Tabletop Simulator. There's just a lot about it. And it's not like I'm against the concept. I'm against their particular execution. I just don't... It just doesn't work for me very well. I just don't like it. And it makes me a bad person, but I'm okay with it. Let's see. Wargames Factory did super spindly skeletons. They went out of business. Gotcha. I'll get Stargrave, but I really hope it's closer to Rangers of Shadowdeep than Frostgrave. Should be useful either way. Rangers of Shadowdeep has got a lot more of a you're going to play this solo vibe. And I don't know that you have that solo vibe in... I mean, I think you might be able to play Stargrave solo. If you're looking for more of a solo vibe... Honestly, if you're looking for something that's a little bit more like Rangers of Shadowdeep, but you want sci-fi, there's a game called 5 Parsecs from Home, which I just got access to their PDF sometime this week, and I've been going through and reading that. I have my iPad here. Yeah, I don't have Stargrave, but I have my iPad. So yeah, 5 Parsecs from Home is by... it's actually being... This is, I think, the 3rd edition, and now it is being produced by Modiphius. Like, I think Modiphius finally picked it up. Books. Poke. Yeah, and so, like, here's... like, you're basically kind of building a crew and doing all that kind of stuff, and you're... you've got all kinds of different creatures and robots and all kinds of things like that. But it is designed generally as a game that you can play solo. Like, you can play multiplayer and you'd be playing co-op, but for the most part it's a solo style game, and it's called 5 Parsecs from Home. You can get it on if you go to wargamevault.com, and you can get it from them. And you probably can get it from Modiphius' website as well. But it's an interesting system of, like, you're playing a narrative campaign and you're building up your people as you're going along, and you're playing different missions and stuff like that. But it is all completely... It's kind of role-play-ish to some degree. You're not like, well, we have to go talk to the tavern owner, that kind of stuff. But more along the lines of, like, video game role-playing, where it's like you're building up progressions and saying, I'm going to put points into this and upgrade that and whatnot and that kind of stuff. But yeah, so if you're interested in that, 5 Parsecs from Home is very interesting. Like I said, I've just been reading through it this week here and there, and it's pretty cool. Do you think Stargrave will be released earlier than the 29th of April? Because I prepaid for the books, I hope to get it sooner. I don't know how they handle their prepay stuff, so that's a good question. But I have a suspicion that generally, like, as far as if you're going to be getting it from your local store, distribution's distribution, and they will generally hit their date. But if you ordered it from them, you might get it early. It's possible. Do you think Cursed City would be a good game to play with my friend who likes RPGs? I think it's a good gateway game between slightly more board gamey stuff and miniatures, but I think that you could. I think you could probably get away with it. You could probably. Here's the thing. I feel personally, to some degree, if a person likes a game like Gloomhaven, which was a hugely popular kind of sort of gateway game between RPGs and board games a little bit, with a little bit of a miniature thing going on, I think that Cursed City could be in that kind of same realm to some degree. Gloomhaven is incredibly deep. Like, most people who play it on the regular have not even gotten close to finishing, whereas I don't think that the stuff for... I don't think that it's the same for Cursed City. That it's, But, on the other hand, Cursed City comes with way more models and nicer models. I mean, I've painted Gloomhaven models, and they're not nearly as nice. You don't have to build them either, so there's benefit there, but they're kind of slightly rubberier plastic, and not real sharp details. But, it's a different type of game. I really want to use Cursed City minis in Warcry, so I hope they release rules for that. Yeah, in that article they did just recently where they released that kind of short little narrative kind of thing for Warcry for the Cursed City stuff, they mentioned that there would be more things coming like that and other things soon. And the way that they worded it, I feel like they're going to be releasing something. I think they'd be dumb not to, frankly. Just like, they did the exact same thing for Blackstone Fortress, so yeah. One Page Rules has a stand-in for Rules Team, AOS Skirmish, Battlefield Gothic, as well as a handful of others. Great little setup. Also, what is soup to nuts? Sounds concerning. It's just this term. It's a soup to nuts is. I don't know if it was used originally in some grocery store. Like, we sell everything from soup to nuts. I don't know, but it's like it means from head to tail, like the entire spectrum kind of a thing. That's what. It's just a term. I don't see how you can use Tabletop Simulator for games like 40K or Kill Team where you need to figure out if models are targetable or obscured by a teeny bit sticking out from the terrain. I mean, technically you can visually kind of move your 3D camera down and then, just like you do, and like look down over the terrain and stuff like that. You can do that. That part's not the hard part for me using Tabletop Simulator. It's everything else, picking things up, trying to get the dice to roll properly, all kinds of stuff like that. Plus, I don't like the background music in there. I don't even like the logo. It's just some of it's real nitpicky. I'm not going to lie, but also I just don't. I don't know. It's just I've tried to use it several times and I just find the interface really clunky. It's like trying to play, let's say 40K, but you're wearing oven mitts. You know what I mean? It's just difficult. So. Hey Malev, how you doing? I've used my Infinity minis in Rangers of Shadow Deep before, so not too worried. Well, that's cool. I get that. Modifius has that out for pre-order right now. It looks like I looked at it this morning. Oh, so it's not okay. I might have got an early copy. That makes sense. Tabletop Simulator is actually incredibly intuitive for line of sight. They actually technically have more of ability to check line of sight than you do. Yeah, that's the thing, because you can move your camera down and get into spots to see, can I see through this window, whereas it may be difficult for you in the real world to get down and look. So that part I have no problem with Tabletop Simulator. Like, I would like a game that has the ability to move around and look like that and do that kind of stuff. I just wish that everything else about it worked better. That's the only thing. I'm waiting for Star Gravy. Star Gravy. The interstellar cooking game where your chefs have to battle it out for rare ingredients. That does sound tasty. Have you played Core Space? I have not. I think I have the book. Well, a PDF. I'm going to check on my iPad again, because that sounds familiar. I got to be honest, I enjoy collecting PDFs a little bit because they don't take up very much space. You know what I mean? Let's see here. Library. Oh, no, I don't have Core Space. I have something called Squad Hammer Core, which is not the same thing. It's got the word core in it. I guess I got that going for me. But I don't even know what this is. Let me see if I can find the cover here. Yeah, Squad Hammer Core People's Edition, as opposed to, I don't know, from Nordic Weasel Games, which I think Nordic Weasel Games, I think, is the same company that does... That name sounds familiar. I think that's the same company who does 5 Parsecs from Home, but I could be wrong on that. Anyway, my point is that I don't have core space, but I've heard of it. 5 Parsecs from Home seems interesting. Solo game or something co-op would be nice. One of the reasons I like Cursed City. Yeah, I mean, especially these days, you know what I mean? Like, there's a... The downside is that by the time that this pandemic and stuff finally starts to let up, that's when the solo games are going to finally start hitting stores or whatever, because they take some time to make. You know what I mean? So I guess we'll be prepped for the next pandemic, I guess. Yeah, that's a terrible thought, and I apologize for it. But yeah, it's just like, by the time that the games are finally like, okay, cool, they're released, and hopefully we shouldn't have to need them anymore. You know what I mean? But that's just game design. It can take a long time. North Star Nick did a deal where if you order the book now, you can get it earlier than release. Oh, nice. I got Core Space, played okay, but setup is too much trouble. Great mats, though. I'll have to check into Core Space. I've never heard of it. Well, I mean, I've heard of it, but I don't think I know as much about it as I thought I did. As a student of political philosophy, I want to borrow your phrase, it makes me a bad person, but I'm okay with it, to summarize certain thinkers' attitudes, such as Machiavelli. Very frequently, I think that when I say it makes me a bad person, but I'm okay with it, I don't really think it makes me a bad person. I think that when I'm saying it that way, I'm saying, I have a suspicion many of you will disagree with me, which therefore makes me a bad person in your eyes, but I don't actually, you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm not saying that I'm a bad person for not liking a specific game. I'm just like, if it's a game that everybody likes and I don't like it, it makes me a bad person, but there's air quotes in there. 2 of them, technically. Yeah. I followed Joseph McCullough's blog. He posted that there's a solo supplement called Dead or Alive that will be published on Osprey's site for free when Stargrave officially launches. Nice. Yeah, I mean, they did... Didn't they release a solo version for Frostgrave? Maybe I'm wrong. Well, there's a solo/co-op version that was released on Osprey's website for Zona Alpha. So yeah, that's maybe what I'm thinking of. But he doesn't have anything to do with Zona Alpha. But Osprey, same company. So yeah, that's very cool. Currently, 5 Parsecs from Home is only available with a hard copy. Older versions have been removed from Wargaming Vault, will reappear in the future. PDF only of 3rd edition will also soon be available. Yeah, and like I said, it's because it's Modifius now. Like it used to be, I don't know if you can still buy. So, Rangers of Shadow Deep is a game also by Joe McCullough, who did Frostgrave. And he wanted to make a game that was kind of like Frostgrave, but it was a little bit more solo based. And it sounds like he wrote it and then either went to Osprey and Osprey was like, yeah, no, we don't want to publish it, or he just decided to self-publish it straight away. I don't know, but he self-published it on Wargames Vault. And it got very popular on Wargames Vault, to the point that eventually Modifius called him and said, hey, and I don't know if they called him, maybe it was an email, whatever. But they said, hey, we would like to publish that, and then they must have worked out some sort of deal, and now you can get a fancier version of Rangers of Shadow Deep through Modifius, but because of that, the original version PDF of Rangers of Shadow Deep, I don't think is even, maybe it's still available, but I don't think it's available on Wargame Downloads anymore, or Wargame Vault. Wargames Download was a different website that I think has closed. But yeah, so it's, that kind of happens. That's one of the things that's interesting about self-publishing, is that you can get stuff out there, and if it's good and popular and whatnot, sometimes companies will reach out to you and be like, hey, would you be interested in us making a version of it, blah, 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 whatever. And then you have decisions to make, obviously, but what was the game with the roadside picnic vibe? It's called Zona Alpha. It's available from Osprey Games. I think I'm way behind. Sorry. Yes, Nordic does 5 Parsecs. Ordered the 3rd edition book. Shipping was more than the book, but the PDF... Got the PDF already, and it's good. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing these days, is it's shipping such a pain that I'm amazed that more companies aren't doing PDF stuff. I understand to some degree why GW... Well, they sort of do, I guess. But yeah, I think that you need to... I think it's one of those situations where it's important, I think, to always look at having some sort of electronic copy, because there's some people who are like, I'd like to buy your game and play it. I think it'd be a lot of fun, but I live on the other side of the planet from you, and shipping's a bear. So, I'm too much of a technophobe to play anything but console games. Never needed computer literacy for any of the work I've done. I get enraged by technology too easily. Well, that's a bummer. yeah. I mean, and technology can be enraging. I'll give you that. I kickstarted 2 to 3 solo board games before pandemic because of hurricane/power loss. Well, also a good idea. Most of them are just delivering now, so get the board games for the next disaster. There you go. Got the updated Kings of War Vanguard rulebook. Cheap. Mantic are selling at half price just now. Interesting. Yeah, I should take a look at that. I'm of the opinion that that I like what I like, and I don't care what others think of it, or I'm a bad person. Yeah, that's fine. Perilous Dark is the Frostgrave solo book. It's not a PDF, it's a full book. Really? Perilous Dark. I don't think I have that. It's not just games that take a while to develop. I did a project in business school that simulated a product development and deployment. Took the whole semester to finish. Oh yeah, no, I mean that's the thing. Is that like literally nearly anything that you can see very frequently takes a long time to actually produce. You know, like here's a memory card for one of my cameras. Let me take it out of the packaging. This probably took a year and a half to develop and manufacture and test and go through. And you know what I mean? Like every last little doohickey, there's a story behind it. There's some team of people that worked on it and went, oh yeah, we had to move the location of the little CE thing that's printed on there like 3 times so that we were in compliance with the such and such people or whatever. I mean, it's just like every little thing, you know. The concept of like, well, why does this take so long? Because it takes long. Everything takes a long time in the real world. So yeah, game design takes a long time, just because not only does it the sitting down and the writing it part, but then the actually like testing it and running the math numbers to make sure things work right and to do all that stuff. And then you get into the layout and the art direction and and it's just it's a lot of work. GW, from what I understand, GW is generally producing products now or working on stuff now that we won't see for at least 2 years. So they're always like, you see something new comes out and you're like, oh wow, that's whatever. But they were working on that 2 years ago. That's when they first started going, maybe we should make these guys again. So some small companies can sometimes turn that stuff faster, and it depends on the thing, but yeah, everything has got a decent amount of time behind it. Third edition of 5 Parsecs is out now in PDF. I mean, interesting. Let's see. What do you think is the future of Fantasy Flight games? I mean, they're owned by Asmodee. So that's, who knows what that means these days, honestly. Like, Asmodee is like a big French company that owns a bunch of stuff, and they bought Fantasy Flight, and it seems unlikely that they would get rid of Fantasy Flight games. I don't know. But as far as what they're doing, the fact that they're pulling the miniature stuff kind of away from Fantasy Flight, and they're putting it over to Atomic Mass, who is the company who originally developed Marvel Lunchtime Rainbow, whatever, Crisis Protocol. I wonder if they want to refocus just the Fantasy Flight group on board games. But yeah, I don't really know about. I'm not super I don't know a lot about them as a company, let's say. Modiphius is working to release a general hardback of the Rangers of Shadow Deep. The LE version is sold out and out of print as far as I know. Yeah. I think that's true. Yep. Latest Warcry books don't have a PDF version, and that sucks. I don't understand that. Like, the fact that these books... Are these the ones you're talking about? Like, the ones that... Like, these are hard to find, as it turns out, which is dumb, in my opinion, and they're not electronic. Also dumb. Like, if you want people to play your game, and you update all the stats and the rules and the points and whatnot, and then make it so that they can't buy those things... Like, my local shop can't get these right now. And I don't even know if they're on the website currently. Maybe they are, but they're not. They don't show up in a lot of the searches. Like, I'm not searching specifically for these, but as I was going through searching for the different models to figure out which ones were the cheapest and easiest, those are kind of hard to find. And why they're not PDFs or enhanced PDFs or whatever, because GW's been doing that with their normal codices for 40K for a long time. Like, why are those not available? Anyway, yeah, I just, it seems weird. What do you think of the mirrorless Canon M50? Is it doable for miniature videography, photography, blogging? M50. I swear I've watched a video about it, but I don't know a ton about Canon in general. I've never been a Canon guy. Like literally, I think I've owned one Canon camera, which was the GX7, G7X, something like that. A little kind of rangefindery kind of point and shoot type of thing. Oh, well, no, that's not true. I also owned a long time ago, still own it too, but it's right here. This little tiny PowerShot SD1000 digital elf. This little tiny camera here, which was a little 7 megapixel. It's like smaller than a pack of smokes, you know what I mean? But just a great little tiny camera, just a really nice little tiny form factor. But I've never owned any of their big cameras, like interchangeable lenses or anything, stuff like that. If the M50 is the one I'm thinking of, it's a pretty decent camera. If you're doing vlogging/blogging type stuff, you do want a camera with a flip out screen. Cameras with flip out screens are great in general, frankly. Like this is a Sony ZV-1, and the flip out screen, I didn't realize just opening it turned it on. Just learned a new feature. But yeah, like the fact that you can do this kind of thing, so when you're trying to shoot yourself, you can see if you're in the shot, right? You know, that's helpful. That's one of the big things for vlogging and blogging. But even then, if you're trying to shoot miniatures and you're down real low, having the screen like this, so you can see, you know, from above, you can be looking down and the camera can be real low. Just being able to turn that stuff around, like, and twist this stuff, it's just, yeah, having a little flappy camera like this is it's a super good idea. So definitely keep that in mind. I know there are some cameras out there that don't have those, but if you're looking at anything for vlogging, blogging, whatever, or you just want to be able to shoot down low, like you want to get down low where the miniatures are, but you don't want to have to crouch down at the edge of the table and stuff like that, having that flippy outy screen that twists is a really super nice feature. Do you have a preference for brand of models for use in Frostgrave? My two Frostgrave warbands that are currently finished, painted and everything, are a mixture of GW and Reaper stuff. At least one or two Reaper Bones miniatures. The rest of the Reapers are metal, and then the other stuff is basically kind of kit bashed, like Bretonians and junk like that. I do own a bunch of the North Star plastics, like the soldiers, the barbarians, the cultists, I think I own some of the lady soldiers too, like the women soldiers. There was some sort of creatures too, not kobolds. Gnolls? I think maybe gnolls. So yeah, I own a bunch of those plastics, and they're great. They're not like super sharp, crazy detail like GW stuff, but they're still really a lot of fun, and there's a lot of modularity there, so you can really kind of customize, and they're great for kit bashing, so yeah. I wanted to get into Warcry, but since I can't get the new books electronically, I guess I won't. Yeah, I don't understand it either. Been hearing the Siren Song of terrain building lately as a palette cleanser between projects. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing some terrain soonish. Both painting some terrain on stream, probably. I'll be working probably on some of that 3D printed kind of Tatooine type stuff I was talking about earlier. And then I want to start, like, the reason I bought the Prox on it, because I've got some projects I want to do out of cut foam. That and those rollers, those 3D printed rollers for texture that I bought as well. Same thing. That's me planning ahead is what it is. So, yeah. How do you see the wargames industry in 10 years from now? I think that you're going to see a few big players, Games Workshop, one of them, certainly, who are still going to be cranking out hard plastic models on sprues that you cut out and paint and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff and whatever. And they're going to be probably in 10 years still producing printed books that you've got to buy and carry around in a backpack, and they get wet or all kind of junk. But the majority of everybody else, I think, is going to start heading to, sure, we'll sell you a printed version if you want, but otherwise everything would be a little bit better if you got more of an electronic version. like the print on demand that you can get now through companies like that, Wargames Vault, Wargame Vault, is great. I mean, my copy of Joe McCullough sent me a PDF copy of Rangers of Shadow Deep after he released it for me to take a look at, and I really enjoyed it. And then I bought the print version straight from. I think it's literally right over here. Hang on. But yeah, I bought the print version. Yep. From Wargame Vault, and they printed it. This is print on demand, so it's got a full color cover. It's got a whatever ISBN and all that stuff. The insides on this particular version are all black and white, but it's still very readable and decent. And they also do color now too. I don't think I own any of the print on demand color inside books from them yet, but they're nice. But the technology just keeps getting better and better in print on demand. So the ability to be able to buy a PDF or a bundle, because even places like Wargames Vault do that now too, where you can be like, I get the PDF and the printed book, but I get the PDF now, and the printed book will come in a week or two once they print it and send it. I think you're going to see most small companies or smaller companies going into that direction, and then you're going to see just tons and tons and tons and tons of STLs out there. There's a lot of terrain companies now, Imperial Terrain, who makes a lot of they made a lot of the Star Wars Legion stuff that people are using on their tables. They've got a new thing that they did. I think the Kickstarter's over, but it's basically you pick a size of building, and then you pick what you want on the outsides, and you then can move even certain elements around. And I want to put the door over to this corner. I want to put a water tank up on top of here. Do all that stuff. Creates an STL, which then you buy, and then you can print it at home. So it's not even just like that we sell STLs. They now sell a web-based kit basically for kind of creating your own STLs within their stuff. So you don't have to know how to draw or anything like that. You can just be like, I want this side, this side, this side, this side, but I want to move the door on this side over here, and then put an HVAC unit on the roof. Boom, done, ship it. And then you get an STL, you throw it in your 3D printer, and you got a finished piece of terrain that doesn't look like anybody else's for the most part. You know what I mean? So you're going to see, I think, a lot more of that too. I'm waiting to get my Dark Uprising box. I'm super excited for all that sweet terrain. Yeah, and they sell a lot of that stuff separately too for Necromunda, and it's amazing, awesome, cool looking stuff. Just getting into Warcry. Field Warbands from Nighthaunt, etc. Do you need the card packs and the books, or just the book and the cards are bonus? The cards are bonus, if not out of date. Yeah, the books, these new skinny little books here, these are the most recent updated stats, points, everything, and the card information in there. Let me get to the right page where you can see the stat thingies. Like these. These are basically the cards, right? So these might have been tweaked points-wise. They may have been tweaked even statistics-wise. I don't know if there's been much where they're like, actually, this guy should be 22 points instead of 21 health points, or this guy should have a move of 5 instead of a move of 6, or something like that. I don't know. I don't have access to all the cards, and I didn't have the time to go through and try to line them all up. But of the stuff that I've been working on, I did see points changes. So at least they changed points on some stuff. But and they've also just added stuff that weren't in the cards. Like when you bought the Warcry foil thing that had the Warcry or the Nighthaunt guys in there, there's new models that are now available in this book that weren't in that original thing. So, and there's also, not only in this book is there that, but then there's also a bunch of new different missions, campaigns, challenges, all kinds of stuff in the back part of the book, fated quests, all that. So it's very cool. But I just wish that the books were a little bit more available, and I don't know why they're not. It seems kind of dumb. Doesn't GW have digital codes for codexes? I would have sworn my friend's copy of Zelda book. Yeah, there's a digital version, but what it is it puts that into the app. So there's now a digital code. So let's say you buy the new Drukhari codex. In the back of the book, there's a code, which if you use the Warhammer 40K app, you then put in that code, and then it gives you access to all the models and the units and the point costs and all that stuff for the new book in the app. But it doesn't give you a PDF or whatever of the codex. That's a slightly different thing altogether. And I know that they've done digital codexes in the past. If you have an Apple device, then they make these enhanced ones where like you can like literally, instead of just being a PDF where you're flipping pages, it's a lot more digital, where you can be like looking at plasma gun and you click on plasma gun with your finger and it pops up and gives you the stats for the plasma gun, like a little pop-up window and stuff like that. So it's not a PDF, it's what they call an enhanced electronic version. And those are cool. But yeah, I don't know if they're still, I'm assuming they're still making them, but I don't know. I haven't looked in a while. Like I said, I haven't looked at a lot of 40K stuff in a while, so. Mini agnostic games plus PDF rules plus 3D print is the future. I mean, again, I think that the big guys are still going to keep doing it the way that they're doing it, but I think that everybody who's smaller is going in that direction to some degree, or at least most people who are smaller is going in that degree. I know I'm going in that degree. If GW went digital, they'd probably have to start releasing a lot more new models than they do currently. Yeah, potentially. Imagine if you can scan your models and then have them on the play field and see an image of their hit points and stats superimposed. That would be awesome. Great use for AR. I think that AR is also a thing that you definitely see. Like I did a video a while back, sometime back, about AR, and I still get comments about it. People like, it's this game that you play with your phone where you're like kind of using your phone almost like as a view thing, but you see the table, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And there's nothing on the table, but you look through the camera and your phone and you see the terrain and the buildings and the lighting and then this and that and all that kind of stuff and the whatever. And people ask, they're like, well, but why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just play a video game? And I'm like, well, because it's basically like a tabletop game, but without all the tabletop stuff. Now, if you're a guy like me and you're interested in the painting and the building and things like that, this is a supplement at best. This is like, we want to play a game of 40K at lunchtime at work, but we're not going to hump all of our stuff to work and then set up a table and build, you know, and all that kind of stuff. We want to have people pull out our phones and be like, cool, we're playing 40K, like if they made a 40K AR thing. And you could play and then pause it and then play again next day at lunch and then pick up where you left off or whatever and be playing in this area and nothing's actually there. But you're still playing in the same format. You certainly could just play a game kind of like a turn-based whatever, or even an RTS or a real-time strategy game where you and your friend are just playing on your phones, maybe against each other multiplayer. But if you want that more tactile, for lack of a better word, because you're actually not touching anything, but you know, that more something that mimics the style of those types of games, then AR is great. The problem is that no one wants to sit there and just like peer through their phone like that, like a goofball, too much. So eventually we're going to need some sort of goggles or something that are going to work well. I've tried on the original version of the Microsoft HoloLens, which was their first AR thing. I was at some tech conference thing for work, and so I got to use them and put them on, and they were neat. But the biggest issue with them, besides the fact that you look like a weirdo a little bit, and also they're kind of heavy and bulky, is also that the peripheral vision is kind of terrible. So like, yeah, there's like a cool like astronaut floating there, and there's like a space shuttle floating there, but as soon as I turn my head of it, it disappears. But I can still see it should be there, but it's such a narrow field of view. That they'll fix, I'm sure. I just read an article, or saw the headline on an article this week about how Microsoft got a $21 billion military contract over the next 10 years for basically AR headsets. So because the military is going to start using AR or whatever. So hopefully that, I don't know, hopefully eventually we'll get some kind of cool AR benefits from that. The software for AR keeps getting better. It's something that we mess with at work from time to time, but it's still, you're holding up your phone and looking through it like a Viewmaster. And that's kind of an issue. It needs to be something that's attached a little bit more to your head, I think, at some point. And then when we see that, then that'll be kind of interesting. So it's also missing the lore and the stories in the GW app. Yeah, that's the thing too. You're just getting the stats. So you bought the book, and then you got that code, and now you have access to all the stats in the book in your app, but you don't. It's not a digital version of the codex, because it doesn't have, you're right, all the extra stuff in there. It just has the stats. Something else of note, if it's a supplement book, i.e. Blood Angels, it's just the Blood Angels units. The core Space Marines are not there. Yeah, that's the thing too, is it used to be when you bought a Blood Angels Codex, it was the Blood Angels Codex. Now it's a Codex supplement. So if you're a Blood Angels player, Space Wolves player, etc., you have to also buy the Space Marines book as well, which is that also doesn't make me real happy. I'm a little annoyed by that. I don't know what the benefit was to changing that when they did, but they did. That happened in 8th edition, I think. I don't think 7th edition had done that yet, but in 8th edition, they've decided to start making them supplemental codexes for the Space Marines. So you got to buy the Space Marines book, and then if you want to play Blood Angels, then you got to buy the Blood Angels book. So now you need 2 books to play Blood Angels, where it used to be you needed the Blood Angels book. So yeah, that's kind of a bummer too. What conventions do you think will be going on this year, if any? So obviously no Adepticon. It would have been last weekend technically. So we poured one out for Adepticon 2021, but Adepticon 2022 has already been announced and everything. So I think Adepticon 2022 is going to go, hopefully, knock on wood. Nova 2021, Nova Open, which usually happens in early September, has already said that they're not having their event. So that's a bummer. Gen Con is having their event, but it has moved, not location, but time. Instead of being in early August, it is now in mid-September. And they're also limiting the number of attendees to some degree, and they're doing a lot of digital online stuff, virtual stuff, whatever. There's a good-sized convention in Wisconsin that is like a overall tabletop gaming convention called Gamehole Con, which is not a great name, but it is what it is. That's 5,000 to 6,000 people these days, and they are planning on having their convention, but it's in late October. What else? I'm trying to think. There's not a lot. I mean, Origins. Origins is a big kind of just like multi-genre gaming convention, kind of like Gen Con or whatever, but it's like Gen Con's usually 70,000 people. Origins is like Gen Con, but about 20,000 people. It takes place in Columbus, Ohio. They moved it back to October as well. So October, November can be real busy with a whole bunch of conventions trying to land on top of each other, and I think there's going to be some issues. As it is already, like Gamehole Con is taking place in Madison, Wisconsin, and Dragonfall, which is a convention that is part of that Matthew Sears here, moderator Matt, he is there on their board and is a charity coordinator guy and everything. It's a small convention. It's predominantly just miniatures, but unfortunately it seems to be happening the same weekend, I think, as and they're also in Wisconsin. Usually it's in northern Illinois, but this year it's in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, where they have GaryCon. GaryCon was also canceled. So it's October's going to be October, November are going to be busy, but yeah, so we'll see. My convention that I like to do here in town, Tabletop Minions Expo, is also not going to be happening in early June like it has in the past. It didn't happen last year, and it's not going to happen this year. So we're going to figure out something. We'll do some online shenanigans of some sort or whatever. But yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I had reached out to the university where I usually have the little mini convention, and my mini convention is like, I think 2 years ago, 2019 was the last one. I think about 70 people showed up, so it's not a big convention, obviously, but it's still a lot of fun. But yeah, I talked to the people from that facility 3 weeks ago, maybe, and she was like, yeah, we're not really looking at having an events. The earliest events that they've got scheduled, I think, are September. So, yeah, it'll be what it's going to be. Orcdoc says, my second vaccine is on the 19th, so I will be going to Gen Con as long as masks are still going to be enforced. Nice. Yeah, I'll be getting my second one end of this month. So, yeah. No weekends for playing this fall, only conventions. Well, I mean, you don't have to go to conventions, obviously. I like conventions, but I don't go to all of them, certainly. But yeah. I do know that the people who do frontline gaming, the folks who do Las Vegas Open, obviously they didn't do Las Vegas Open this year, but they're going to be doing Atlantic City Open, I guess. But I forget what the date is. But they did just recently announce it. So that's something. If you're looking for something that's a miniatures thing again, we got a bit more of a competitive vibe to it, as far as the tournaments and stuff like that. So I bought into Space Wolves recently. I was under the impression that the Codex is all I needed. I'm just using the Battlescribe app as the in-between since I don't have the Space Marines Codex. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that technically you're supposed to have both those books. So yeah, it's kind of a bummer. John Ashley Smith says, I hope to go to Valhalla when I earn my place there, riding the Valkyries to the Hall of Odin. Wait, the what? Not that Valhalla? Yeah, Valhalla is a Valhalla in the fall, as it is officially called, I guess, because they eventually want to have, I think, a spring one, maybe two, but at least right now it's Valhalla in the fall. And that is a War Games retreat that takes place in Utah, and it's put on by Wargamer Girl, if you've ever followed her on YouTube. And I've been to that more than a couple times, 3 times, 4 times. And that one's been announced, and that's coming up in late October as well. But that's usually when it is. Like I said, it's in the fall, so it's usually October-ish. Let's see here. Believe it or not, my local game store hasn't had the Space Marine Codex in stock for months. I think that there's a good possibility that, because those books are all printed in China, I'm 98% sure. There's a good chance that they've also just had supply line, just can't get the stuff out right now. You know what I mean? There's a lot of that's going on right now. Another big reason to start to rely a little bit more on PDFs, in my opinion. But, nobody asks me. I mean, you folks ask me, and you're not nobodies, but you see what I'm saying. Nobody in the business asks me, so yeah. We can't use the TMX chat and the Discord for virtual if it's full of cats right now, and Lord knows hurting them out will be end in tears. I'm going to make a new Discord channel for cats and dogs and pets. They will end up in that. Well, that's what, yeah. But I just haven't done it yet. Let's see here. According to paragraph 65, paragraph 4.5, you have to go to conventions. I like conventions, but I don't think you have to go. I go to one con a year usually. That's the weekend up here, so no. Fall Holla. That would be not a bad name for it. I could see that. That's maybe what the cool kids are going to call it, is Fall Holla. Greetings from Michigan. How you doing? I'm just waiting for the stores here to start having in-person events again. Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on the state or the country or whatever. Like right now, like our local game stores, specifically the one that I go to, has just, like within the last week, started doing in-person stuff again, like playing games in store. But they don't, like they're requiring masks. They got one of those thermometer laser guns that they shoot you in the forehead with to see if you've got a fever. I mean, I know that's not necessarily 100% foolproof, obviously, but it's still a thing. Like if you show up and you are coughing and sweating and I shoot you in the forehead and you've got 101 and you're wearing a mask, we're still going to ask you to go home and lay down, just for your own good and also to not give the rest of us the Rona. So, yeah, but I don't know. It depends on the store. It depends on the state. There's a lot of different things right now. I'm still not playing in stores. Like I go into the store from time to time to like pick something up. What did I just get recently? I had to pick up. Black Templar contrast, the color Black Templar, because I use it a lot and it was nearly out, so I had to pick some up. But otherwise, I don't generally try to hang out there a ton right now. Let's see here. In a certain way, I like having the Core Marines book. It makes it cheaper, really, if you play multiple Space Marine armies. Yeah, I guess if you play 4 of them, then I guess it can get cheaper, or maybe 3 of them. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of people out there who are playing multiple Space Marine armies. I think that there's more people out there who are playing a Space Marine army, and then maybe like the Tau, or maybe like the Chaos Space Marines, or maybe Orcs or something like that. And so, yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Would you build a board game around getting ships through the canal without getting stuck? No, I would not. I'm not a big board game guy myself, anyway. The Adepticon experience on Viewmaster as a COVID alternative. Well, I suppose. You have to mail out those little discs and hope that people have the player thing. I don't know. That's hard to do. First time catching the live show. I'm currently 3:40 a.m. in New Zealand. Oh my goodness, Rob. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Got back into the hobby after a 27-year break. I've loved having your videos to listen to while painting. Thanks. Well, I appreciate it, Rob. I hope that things are going well, and I hope that it's not too crazy late. Did I already talk about Cursed City? Nah, sort of. I mean, talking about the miniatures. I built the 10 skeletons. They're in the box. They're not hard to build. They go together pretty simply. They're real, like I said, pretty skinny. And I'm going to prime them later on this afternoon. I'm going to start painting them tomorrow night on Twitch. 7 p.m. Central Time is when I'm going to start on Monday night. And yeah, I paint every Monday night and Friday morning at 10 a.m. Central. So you could come by and check that out and watch me work on those Cursed City skeletons. As far as any other plans, I do want to then, like I said, build some of the heroes and paint them next, including the skeleton hero guy. I think that what I'm going to do, because my plan is to try to use these miniatures for multiple things. So I could see myself using them even in a game like Frostgrave to some degree. I could see myself using them in a lot of different things. I definitely want to use them in Warcry, but we need for them to actually release stats for them in Warcry before I can do that. So if they do, and I'm sure they will, I'm pretty sure they will, I hope a lot that they will, then my plan is that I'm going to build probably another Death Army, because I currently only have a Nighthaunts warband for Warcry, but I do want to try to do a little bit more. I want to have some skeletons, and these skeletons would be a great base for that, I think. So if I get them, if there's some stats for the Watch Captain, and maybe, I don't know, maybe that big wolf bat thing, I forget his name now off the top of my head, but that would be a cool model to also work on. At the very least, I want to work on some of these models just because I want them for other games. But I still, like I said, I kind of don't see myself. I think for me, one of the biggest problems with big games like this is that I feel bad only painting some of them. So, like, if I only painted, like, some that I wanted to paint and I didn't paint all the weird little rat, hordes and the weird little bat monsters and all that junk, I think that would be kind of weird, because I'd be like, well, so you'd be playing the game and half would be painted and half wouldn't, or, whatever the number would be. And that's sort of troublesome, at least as far as the board game is concerned. I still have not yet played the board game version, actually game of Blackstone Fortress, and I probably won't, but I've used a bunch of the models in there for a lot of different things, specifically Kill Team and stuff like that. So, yeah. Oh, good. Motorcycle across the street. Gonna warm up for 20 minutes. So yeah, that's kind of those are my plans for Warcry, or for Cursed City, but I've been saying that about how I want to use the models from Warcry for a long time. If push comes to shove, I guess I can just be like, these are normal skeleton warriors. There's already stats in here, the Bringers of Death, for skeleton warriors, so I could use those guys just as regular old skeleton warriors. Let's see here. Well, these are all Nighthaunts. Blood Knight, Vargeist. Definitely could use that big, weird bat monster wolf thing as a Vargeist, certainly. Zombies, there's zombies in that. I mean, I don't know, I just don't like... There's a big part of me that still just does not like the Cursed City zombies because they're all carrying their tombstones on their back. That's just is kind of a weird look to me. So I could use the zombies in here, in this book as that, but yeah. That's kind of what we're looking at, so yeah. Chilling Wargamers, how you doing? Great to see you here, buddy. Absolutely. How you doing? Sorry I'm late. Kind of had a nap. That happens. It's not a problem at all, man. GW is a publishing company. They never will stop selling physical books. And I don't think that they should. I'm not saying that a company should, because a lot of people still like physical books, certainly. But I think that any company that's smart is also going to start to really depend upon PDFs a lot, too, for people who are interested in, maybe buying a bundle where they get the PDF first, so they've got it now, and the book will get shipped when it eventually gets shipped, because who knows when shipping is going to go back to anything nearing normal. I think that there are plenty of people out there who, like me, in a lot of situations, I'm just fine with not having nearly as many books laying around all the time. My iPad takes up far less space, you know what I mean? And the print-on-demand thing, though, the quality's not necessarily as awesome as some of the fancy schmancy books from like, say, Games Workshop. Like, this is print-on-demand, and like I said, I still think that this is pretty decent quality. It's black and white on the inside, but that's a choice. Again, you could produce this in color as well. It will cost a little bit more. I don't know if this has got a price on it. I don't remember seeing a price, but it's also a good deal thicker, too. Like, so this red one here, that one is, this one's the GW book that cost $25. I don't remember if this cost $25. It might have been $30. But, so you kind of get what you're getting as far as the density of the information and all that kind of stuff. This guy kind of reminds me of Bruce Willis's character from Unbreakable, a little bit right there. But anyway, so yeah, oops. Long story short is that, I don't know, I think that companies, and a lot of them still do, a lot of companies do, are like, look, we'll sell you, we'll even give you the PDF. That's like I said in that recent video. We'll, like, you know, Mythos from War Cradle, you can just go download the PDF, check it out if you want to. And then if you want to buy the book, they'll sell you the book. You know, that's cool. But they will also just let you download, especially if I let you download the rules. If I'm selling miniatures, it makes sense for me to let you download the rules for free if I'm trying to sell you miniatures. If I am selling you a standalone miniatures game, I probably can't justify just giving you the PDF for free. You know, so that's the way that works. But if you're trying to sell miniatures, making your rules very, very, very accessible makes a lot of sense. So, hey, Andy2D6, how you doing? Could always dry brush up the weird rat things until you're ready to do them properly so they don't stink up the board with their naked plastic. Yeah, that's also true, too. I mean, to be fair, for me, in a lot of situations, dry brushing is about as far as it goes sometimes. My girlfriend and I started playing Song of Blades and Heroes. Really fun, quick skirmish game. I also like that they have unit creation rules in the book. Yeah, that's also the coolest thing, I think, too. I really love that in Song of Blades and Heroes, there's tons and tons of tables in the back of the book. You're like, oh, you need skeletons, you need this, you need that, whatever. We've got all these stats. But you can also be like, I want to make my own figure. They have like an equation where they're like, cool, you do this and this and this, and then that's the points. And then any special abilities, they have a list of points next to them. I don't know if they're in the book. I actually think that that's the unit creation, I think, is on the website, isn't it? Like it's almost like an online calculator where you're like, I want my combat to be this, my quality to be this, and then I want these two special abilities. It'll be like, boom, there you go. Here's the thing. You know, here's your points cost, so you know. I think that's really cool. I mean, admittedly, it's something that you can really only do with simpler rule sets. Having an actual equation that kind of works means that your rule set has to be a little bit simpler to make those numbers and the math come out. But it's also like those special abilities, the fact that there's a number given to those special abilities, again, is just the designer going, I think that's about a 7-point thing. Like there's no, you know, if you're going to take quality versus combat and those are numbers, it's easy to give them number equivalents within points. But to say, well, what's the point cost on being a big model that is always targetable? Well, you know, you have this benefit, that negative, blah, 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 whatever. There's no good mathematical way to say it's exactly worth 6 points or whatever. So that part of the actual final equation is a little bit of guesswork, but they've already gone through and did numbers that they think will work, and then they're like, cool, great. And then you figure it out. But yeah, it's a cool game. You should check it out if you're looking for simple fantasy, but still elegant, you know, rules, fantasy skirmish stuff where you can use whatever the heck you want. Song of Blades and Heroes, I'm still a big fan. Let's see here. I think GW needs more factories around the world, maybe a North America West Coast location. I think predominantly the majority of their manufacturing is still going on predominantly in the UK. I know that there's some pieces, more terrain stuff sometimes, but there's some terrain stuff that gets made in China, but for the most part, like all the normal models and things like that, those are all being produced in the UK. I know a lot of their printing for books and things like that is coming from overseas, from China predominantly. But yeah. Song of Blades and Heroes does need a website for points when making your characters, but it's nice that they don't have a hard and fast point system as it encourages you to say, that's cool, I'll just do what I want. Yeah, that's kind of cool too. The Sentinels of Order book is $35. It is thicker. Is it thicker than the Bringers of Death? Yes. The Chaos and the Order books are maybe twice as thick, or maybe almost twice as thick, but that's why they're 35 books. The Death and Destruction books are both $25 a piece because they're a good deal skinnier, which is why when I did the videos, I did a video about Chaos, I did a video about Order, and then the third video was Death and Destruction in one, just because there's less stuff, so I just squished it into one video. So there you go. If you ever get into how to play type videos, a Song of Blades and Heroes could be your first one. Yeah, that'd be good. It's not hard to teach. That's a good idea. But yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, it's about 11 o'clock here in my neck of the woods, so I want to thank everyone for coming by today. I hope that you have a good rest of your Sunday, whether you're doing an Easter thing or just hanging out or whatever, or working in the yard or working on some miniatures. I hope to be working on some miniatures later on today. Like I said, I'm going to do some priming on those guys. I want those skeletons to probably be a really super dark brown paint and as my main primer, and then dusted from above with silver because there's so much armor, and then I'll paint the bone all with my brush later on. Normally skeletons, I'll paint them bone as my main primer color, but because there's not that much bone hanging out on these guys, I'm going to start with more of the armor color as my main color. But yeah, I'll start painting them, like I said, tomorrow night on Twitch. So if you come by 7 p.m., 7 p.m. Central Time, I will start painting them then. And then I'll continue to paint them until they're done, all 10 of them. Let's see, what else? Anything else? I can't think of anything else. So I hope that you guys have a good day, and we'll see you again here in 2 weeks at the next Every Other Sunday show. And I hope you get some things painted and have some. I hope the weather gets better. Maybe you get some things primed, if depending on your neck of the woods where you live. And we will see you folks later on. And thanks for watching.